If you choose to accept the situation, and we hope that you will, then press the forget button. All the information I'm about to give you will be erased from your memory. You will continue to enjoy the safety and amenities of Starship UK, unburdened by the knowledge of which has been done to save you.
Wait a minute. You just flash that thing, it erases from memory, and you just make up a new one?
It's a standard issue election booth.
And that is the best you can come up with?
You did not see a giant space whale. You did not see a video telling you about the terrible things we have done to it. You will love and cherish each other for the rest of your life.
Which could be the next 27 or 28 minutes, so y'all should get to loving and cherishing. Oh, and she gets to stay up as late as she wants, have cookies and cookies and cake and junk and stuff.
Alrighty.
Welcome, one and all, to the 62th Unearthly podcast. We are recording live on July 43. Make sure to say just one time may be rewritten, 2014, and featuring The Beast Below, written by Stephen Moffat and starring Karen Gillan. I am the Man in Black, and with me are Mad Matt Winchell.
Hello.
Randy Ronson McCulloch.
Always a pleasure.
And Aaron Romeo Moon Burke.
Kitties!
You can find us on twitch.tv/madmat2185, twitter.com/unearthlypod, facebook.com/unearthlypodcast, and youtube.com/maninblackreviews.
If you're wondering why we're broadcasting today instead of our usual Friday time, it's that tomorrow is the 4th of July, and we did not want to actually try to broadcast this while massive booming is going on.
Yeah.
In everybody's background instead of just mine.
Yeah.
Although most of my booms are done, I think, for tonight.
Even so, it was going to be a mite inconvenient.
Mm-hmm.
Wee bit.
Can I also take a quick moment to give a quick shout-out to somebody?
Sure.
I would like to just give a shout-out to my pseudo-brother Bob, who just got out of the hospital today. Good luck, our hopes are with you, and, well, this nacho is for you, extra salty.
Oh.
And in Series 8 news, I think it's been a while since we've had one of these. We've had a new guest star cast, and judging by some of the reasons why Moffat wanted to cast her, I feel like we may have a new love interest for the Doctor, which kind of sad. The reason I say that is because Stephen Moffat's quote was, "I've known first of all, this is Michelle Gomez. Stephen Moffat's remarks on her was, "I've known Michelle for years, and I'm thrilled to welcome her to Doctor Who. She's everything we need. Brilliant, Scottish, and a tiny bit satanic." So in other words, a Moffat
I don't know, that
woman,
makes her sound like
Scottish.
a villain. That makes her sound like a villain.
But think about the last female villain we've had on Doctor Who pretty much was the Doctor's love interest for the episode. But not Scottish.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm thinking you're reading too much into it.
I hope I'm reading too much into it. I'm just saying, hey, it's a Moffat character. Oh.
It's another Moffat female character. Oh, no.
That said, otherwise, I'm kind of curious as to why he would specifically be looking for her to be Scottish. You know, considering, Capaldi and everything.
Yeah, but also I think that tiny bit satanic is a good key that she's going to be a bad guy and not a love interest.
It really depends on how you take that, because I mean that could just mean, anti-establishment, depending on who's saying the word. I don't know Moffat well enough to know what he would specifically mean by that.
Not to mention, we have to take everything Moffat says with a bit of troll face.
I'm sorry. I've been distracted by the BBC America Doctor Who picture. Do you guys got that to the right of the
Do you
article?
see America Doctor Who Deep Breath?
Yes.
Yeah.
With Capaldi sitting there with his arms like this, he looks like he's freaking Superman posing.
Yes.
More or less.
I'm looking at that, and all I can hear is the freaking John Williams Superman theme.
That's Jor-El.
It doesn't help that the TARDIS behind him makes it look like a freaking crystal pillar.
Yes.
My son.
And by the way, Gomez's character is the gatekeeper of the Nethersphere.
Where's the Keymaster?
So, combining that with Moffat's quote, does that mean that she's like, is that one of the rings, one of the rings of hell?
Maybe.
Which actually would be kind of awesome, but
Yep. Now all we need is Vince Glortho. So her and Rick Moranis in the same film. Yeah, there we go.
Is Rick Moranis still around? I can't remember for sure.
Well,
He's retired.
He's retired. Huh?
We do have someone who seems to be a co-star of her episode based on the next picture we have.
Oh, that picture, yeah.
Yeah. Here we see the Doctor with Gomez walking away from a crowd of Cybermen, while apparently there's a bunch of locals just also stop to look at the Cybermen. I'm not sure the deal with that.
Yeah, but it kind of looks like it looks like he's kind of strong-arming her. In a way, it looks like he's kind of treating her the same way that Eccleston treated what's her face, the Slovene Blom.
Okay.
In Boomtown. So it doesn't look like he's happy.
Right.
Again, I don't expect this Doctor to look that happy much at all, to be honest, but maybe that's just me.
Maybe she's the new Cyber Queen.
Maybe.
Or Cyber King.
Cybermen really don't seem to differentiate sex with very few occasions.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, I guess we'll
that does mean that we have a Cyberman episode, and judging by the fact that the photo was probably taken fairly recently, my guess would be it was somewhat toward the end of the season.
One would assume.
Mm-hmm.
Especially since Cyberman episodes probably need at least as much post as any other episode.
Mm-hmm. As much, if not more. Depending. I don't know, are we going to have the little cyber mites again?
Don't know. We'll have to see.
They're so cute.
They're so cute and deadly, like every little cute creature. It's little
They're
things
like
that kill.
Hey,
The silver
Tinkerbell.
version of earwigs.
I think Tinkerbell is officially a Doctor Who monster thanks to Torchwood, so yeah.
Yeah.
Sort of.
Oh, look, it's Tink. Ah, she's killing my eyes out.
Then again, I think the last live-action Peter Pan-based movie I saw, Tinkerbell was actually kind of kicking ass. So yeah, I'm not so totally surprised.
Our next bits of news are probably not going to be as interesting to as many people. The first one, for those unfamiliar with Mad Norwegian Press, they're responsible for such books as the About Time series by Lawrence Miles and Tat Wood, as well as Chicks Dig Time Lords. What's the other one? I think it's called Queers Dig Time Lords, but don't quote me on that. But they've released a new book called, or they are releasing, I believe. Yes, 9 December 2014. Space Helmet for a Cow, the mad true story of Doctor Who. So,
I get that quote, by the way.
Oh?
I believe it was. I can't remember the second male companion's name was. I'm trying to remember.
Steven.
Steven. I think it was the first episode that they traveled with Steven in the TARDIS, and they came up on a shore. And the Doctor holds up a helmet. Oh, there you go, a Viking helmet. Steven's like, maybe. What do you think it is? A space helmet for a cow? He drops it back down on the ground.
I'm just looking at the picture and going, too bad this wasn't released last year. They could have used the picture for OddCon's Dr. Moo.
Yes.
They could have, yes. Only if they actually got the reference, though, too, I would assume.
Actually,
I'm not sure how many would.
Matt's mention of the reference makes sense with the photo, too, with the Viking helmet on him.
Mm-hmm.
Notice, though, it also has Tom Baker's scarf.
Yep.
Well, because it's Mad.
Uh-huh.
But this is being published for Doctor Who's 51st birthday, and is essentially a look at the classic Who. They specifically mentioned 1963 to 1989. Yep. Actually, it says Volume 1, so there might be a Volume 2 coming out.
Well, I would assume that Volume 2 might be New Who, but I can't say for sure on that either.
Actually, it looks like they're going by year, because Volume 1 is 1963 to 1989.
Yeah, so that's all of Classic Who.
Yeah.
So yeah, Space Helmet for a Cow is all of Classic Who, and then they're going to make a sequel, which will be all of Modern Who up to the 50th anniversary.
I'm kind of curious if they're going to cover the Wilderness years, or how much they are.
Not really, because it looks like a lot of it's the behind the scenes of the production.
Yeah. So at the
they
very
can't do
most,
that when there's no production going on.
Yeah. So at the very most, they might touch on the movie and maybe some of the audio adventures before going to New Who.
I'm like, it depends on what what they consider to be worth talking about behind the scenes. Is talking about what happened to the Doctor Who actors when they went to Bill Baggs worth talking about? Probably not, but they might. Behind the scenes of the movie, Scream of the Shulka stuff. I'm not saying it. And that said, I'm not necessarily for or against it. It kind of depends on what they have to say about it. I mean, if they could start at 2005 and go to 2013. I don't know, but yeah, not really that much to say about that one. And the next one makes me wonder what the BBC thinks an ebook is. Because they refer to it as a Cyberman Monster File ebook, and it includes such things as clips and a story narrated by Nick Briggs. So that says probably not what I consider to be an ebook.
An ebook is kind of a generic term.
An ebook is generally a thing you read on an ebook reader of text that could be printed if you want it to be, but isn't usually.
Technically, that's what the ebook readers define an ebook as. Ebook is an old term, basically meaning electronic book, anything digital. So they're defining it a lot looser than you are.
Apparently.
Ebook, Wikipedia. Let's have a look-see. Electronic book is a book-length publication in digital form consisting of text, images, or both. Readable on computers or electronic devices.
Yeah, it fits it. It's just a little different. It's actually developing to be viewed on Android, Apple iPads, and Kindle Fire tablets.
But first, it's for not necessarily.
They're containing video now because ebook readers can play video these days.
But because this is being co-funded by UK television license fees, pretty much if you have a UK television license, you get to download it for free. I think that's for a limited time before it goes public.
Yeah, I would
looks
assume
like
such.
It looks like it expires on 31st July. When is the release? Reading backwards doesn't help me.
It's already available now.
Or is it already out? It's already out. Okay, so basically for the rest of July, UK television license holders can download it for free. After starting at midnight GMT, I'm assuming BST and GMT are the same thing.
British Standard Time. Yeah, it's essentially
Yeah.
GMT.
Starting at midnight, August 1st on British Standard Time, it'll be for sale on iTunes, Android Store, Kindle Fire app, and Google Play. I'm not sure why it would differentiates Android stores from Google Play, but whatever.
Because there are some Android phones that do not use Google Play.
Yes, but I thought the only ones were Kindle, which
Phones, not actual Kindle devices.
No, I'm saying in terms of, I'm saying Kindle as in Amazon produced Android items do not use the Play Store.
British Standard Time, by the way, is GMT +1.
Oh, okay, so that's, I got you, okay.
Yeah. And it's kind of their equivalent to daylight savings. So,
Okay.
Anyway, yeah, our phone networks like 90% of all our phone networks use Google Play for their downloads and stuff. I don't know what it's like in Europe. That may not be true.
That's the point. One thing that's interesting, the biggest thing that what I think is actually the biggest thing that they left out, Windows. Apparently, Microsoft users are left in the dark this time.
And
I mean, I don't know how big the Windows Phone is, but Microsoft generally is a pretty big.
Excuse me, it's British summertime, by the way, so it is daylight savings.
Oh, okay. So it's not Greenwich Mean Time, but it's the time that they are experiencing on the Greenwich Mean.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's, like I said, it's daylight savings for England.
Mm-hmm.
iPad, Android, Kindle Fire. Yeah, it looks like there's not any particular Windows version.
Although you can get it off iTunes, which you can usually use on Windows. So,
True.
I don't know.
But this is
those you have to pay for.
Yeah.
Probably, yes.
So this is apparently essentially a non-fiction thing. It doesn't give very detailed information, but it features every version of the Cybermen. If you look at the photo, it includes everything from the 1963 Cybermen to the 2013 ones.
2013/14.
Not 14 yet. Although we know they will be. But still, the 2006 ones are the 2006 ones, not the 2006, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 ones.
Everything you wanted to know about Cybermen, but were afraid to ask.
The ebook.
And if this does well, you realize there's probably going to be one for every major Doctor Who baddie.
It's essentially a computerized version of the Dalek handbook that I have in the other room.
Only for Cybermen.
Yeah. It also includes a short story of named Cyberman Status Update, which is probably going to have some background on the Neil Gaiman stuff. Would be my guess. There's nothing to support that. It's my guess. Written by Joseph Lidster and narrated by Nicholas Briggs, because apparently Briggs is the Cyber King and has enough of him to do everything in Doctor Who all at once.
There is logic in what he says.
He's the voice of every monster in every medium, while being the exec producer of lots of Doctor Who stories. And he's
what
Doctor.
Stephen Moffat wanted to be.
Yeah. Yes.
Which is why I still say that Nick Briggs is probably our best bet for a new header for Doctor Who. Although I'm not sure how he would be able to handle it.
Is there anything more?
He'd have to leave his role in Big Finish. I think that's all the news, unless somebody's found anything I haven't.
I haven't really looked, so...
That's all the stuff I've noticed, and then some.
Get a bit busy getting things finished up for GeekCon, so...
Yes, all three of us have been.
So,
okay.
Before we go on to the feature episode, it might behoove us to share some, just a little bit of talk on the episode that I wouldn't say inspired it, but that provided the setting for it, which is a fairly popular Fourth Doctor episode and the second Fourth Doctor episode, The Ark in Space.
Well, yeah, that first season of Tom Baker's was pretty killer. I mean, it was like there's not really a bad episode in the bunch.
Some would argue Robot.
Robot's not bad. It's not great. It's not bad.
Robot's hokey, but it's not horrible by any means.
It's by no means Journey to the Center of the TARDIS or
Right.
Yeah, it by no means gets that kind of spite out of me, despite the fact that I still say it's a bit hokey.
yeah. So go on, Bill.
Okay. Well, the Ark in Space is essentially it sets the idea that they don't actually give it a date there, but they do say close to the 30th century, that humanity has essentially launched arks into space to escape the Earth, which has become inhospitable, and to branch out into other worlds. In the Ark in Space, some parasites have infested their particular ark, and they've lain dormant for hundreds of years. Which leads to the Beast Below, which is pretty much the same time period, same setting, except the Starship UK.
One thing. The Ark in Space was actually set in 16087. Or at least around, Yeah.
Oh. Okay, because I was trying to find a year, but I do know that they mentioned that they lied dormant for much longer than they expected, and that when I don't remember what. Oh no, the doctor I think recognized the device and said that it was from around the 30th century. I've only watched the episode once, so some of my memories are a little hazy of it.
It's been a while since I've seen it too. But I'm looking it up on the TARDIS wiki, and they give the date.
They give a date.
Exact.
I was looking at that episode and at that article, and I couldn't find the date.
Main setting: Nerva Beacon, 16087.
Huh.
Mentioning the fact that Nerva Beacon had been 10,000 years in suspended animation, meaning that they went in approximately the year 6000, the 61st century, not the 30th.
But there's... Okay, here we go. What I got that from, the Doctor notes the presence of a Bennett oscillator and dating the Ark to around the 30th century.
Oh yeah, the Ark itself had been in operation for ages. Later on, for Revenge of the Cybermen, they come back to Nerva Beacon when it is still a space station. It's just that in the year 6000, in order to save humanity, they turned it into an Ark.
Well, apparently Moffat thought that this was set in the 30th century too.
Yeah, he mentions UK 3295.
Because the Beast Below, which someone's probably about to give a summary on, does start off by saying that this mass exodus takes place in the 29th century. So, with that, anybody like summarizing?
You want me to summarize The Beast Below?
If you'd like.
I've also watched it today.
What's that?
I've also watched it today.
I watched it earlier.
I haven't watched it. I can summarize it if you want.
You haven't watched it, so no, we're not going to have you summarize it. So, we start out in what looks to be an exterior of a ginormous spaceship. Several different types of names of London cities are listed on the sides of buildings. And we zoom into a classroom where a young boy is looking very glum. Everybody else is lining up to this head in a box, for no other better reason to put it, and is getting praise from said box. he finally goes up and gets a very bad boy, 0. And most of his other classmates start shunning him. The only one that doesn't warns him that he can't take the elevators, because you know what happens if you take the elevators and you have a 0. The boy ignores the warning and goes into a different elevator where a electronic girl on a wall starts chanting this rhyme about the beast below, and the hole opens up in the floor, sucking him down into this pit, whereas one of these faces, which had gone from smiling to frowning and then from frowning to demonic, watches on. We then cut to the doctor, who has thus decided the best way to introduce Amy to the wonders of space is to dangle her by her ankle outside the TARDIS door. This is interrupted by him looking down and noticing there's a great big spaceship down there that he hasn't been to. So
Michael
he gets
Jackson's
all excited.
full of experience.
So he gets all excited and lands on the thing on the ship, and then gives her several rules to follow, including that you don't interfere in the natural occurrence of things. As he zooms in at the girl that had talked to the boy before, sobbing, he and Amy's looking at her, saying how much it hurts to not be able to do that. And of course, the doctor has waltzed right out and is doing exactly what he said not to do. Amy comes out, but by this time the girl has brushed the doctor off. The doctor lists Amy to her name and address after apparently having stolen her probably what looked like her grade sheet. The doctor then also notices that everyone else is ignoring the girl's pain, making this seem like a police state, as the girl was sobbing in silence and nobody's doing anything about it. Looking around, he's looking for things odd. At one point, he takes a glass off a table, puts it on the floor, looks at it a bit, then gives it back. He asks Amy to check up on the girl while he goes investigates on his own. Amy, of course, having just been introduced to the wonders of time and space, is forced to wander off after this girl through this massive, huge ship, probably about the size of an American state. This does not end well, of course. The girl catches up to Amy, figuring out that Amy's been following her, and asks what she wants. Amy, of course, is at a loss for words, being absolutely new to this whole situation. But the girl then mentions they have to go back because there's apparently a hole, looking at a construction tent. Amy never takes no for an answer and starts picking the lock on the construction tent. Nearby, one of those faces turns from smiling to frown. This does not deter Amy, as she then breaks in and she discovers a tentacle. Now, had this been a Japanese anime, nasty things would have happened right there. But of course, this is Doctor Who, and we have to keep things PG. So, Amy screams and backs out of the tent. Just in time for the Spanish Inquisition, led by Cardinal Biggles, to show up in their dark robes, lift a onyx ring to Amy, which then shoots out a gas, and she blacks out. While this is going on, the doctor is investigating the engine room to discover there isn't one, or more to the point, there is, but it's a fake. All the hookups are fake. There's nothing beyond those doors. It's basically one massive set up by somebody to deceive someone into thinking there is an engine room. The doctor is met by a masked figure who's pointing out also these same differences. She identifies herself as Liz 10 and says to the doctor to keep in touch. When the doctor asks how he'll contact her, she says she'll find him and disappears. Amy wakes up in a room, a small, probably 10 by 10 room, with a video and 2 buttons that say, "Forget" and "Protest." She is then shown a video, of which we don't see, but the contents of it makes her almost immediately hit the "Forget" button. She has also left a message for herself, telling her to not let the doctor investigate further, to just get him out of there. Of course, Amy is confused. By this point, the doctor has managed to find her. And while he's in there, he hits the protest button, which sucks them down a tube into a very familiar-looking pit. And they wind up in a food garbage sludge, which turns out to be on a tongue of a great big beast. The doctor excites it to the fact that it then proceeds to vomit them up onto the floor, where they are met by Liz 10, who then identifies herself as Queen Elizabeth X. She's the queen. She rules. Liz takes her back to her quarters to clean up so they can clean off the sick, supposedly, and they discuss what's going on with the ship and this big conspiracy that Liz has spent the last 50 years looking for. No sooner have they done that. Yep.
She describes it as 10 years.
Okay.
No, she does it at 50 first.
No, she says she's 50 years old. She's been the queen for 10 years.
But for her entire reign, she's been trying to uncover this grand conspiracy. As she does this, the Spanish Inquisition shows up again and insists that they escort her to the tower. Of course, this being a ship of the whole of England, of course they happen to have a Tower of London. They're English. Exactly. Anyway, when she protests, one of them turns their head around and turns out to be half smiling. Yes, the things from the box. And then they're escorted to the Tower of London, where in front of the Queen is a very similar setup. Only hers says forget and abdicate rather than forget and protest. But before she can watch the video, the doctor verbally figures it out. They had found this space whale that while they were about to die, the space whale came and they basically captured it, built their starship around it, and have been using it to travel through the stars. They're torturing this creature so that they can keep moving. The doctor is faced with a horrific decision because if he lets the space whale free, everybody on the ship will die. But at the same time, leaving the space whale alone would leave him to be tortured in unbearable pain. He takes a third option, which would be to lobotomize the whale so it can't feel pain anymore. As he's setting that up, Amy's watching as the children that are there, somebody that the head of the Inquisition, Torquemada, whatever you want to call him, has said that the people that disobey get sent down to feed the whale, but it never harms the children. Amy takes this, puts 2 and 2 and 2 and 2 together, and realizes that the space whale was volunteering to help them, that it's old and lonely. She forces Liz to hit the abdicate button, which shuts down all the equipment, and much to their surprise, they don't die. The space whale continues at a much faster pace. Later on, the doctor is musing on this thought to Amy, who's compares the space whale in much ways to the doctor himself, old and kind, and the last of their kind. And like the doctor, it couldn't help but interfere when it heard the cries of children. A little heartened by this, the doctor proceeds to go back to the TARDIS with Amy and onward to their next adventure, where they receive a call from the Prime Minister of England, Winston Churchill. End of episode.
Yep.
So, now we get to the review of the episode itself.
One has to wonder, after hundreds of years of it refusing to eat the children, why they keep sending them down there.
Only seems to be a handful of children, though, and I don't think the Smilers in particular really care. They're just getting the children away from everyone else.
After they realize that every time a child gets a 0 on a test, they send it down to the space whale.
Well, if they get a 0 and they go on the elevator,
which then refuses to eat them, and they just walk back up.
Well, I'm not sure they walk back up. It sounds like they keep them.
They keep them down there, Bill.
I'm kind of thinking that the children later become the next set of Inquisition / Smilers. Yeah.
Pretty much.
And let's talk about the Smilers themselves, because that was not the
that would
greatest.
explain why the human Smilers didn't have enough brains to explain to the Queen that they were bringing her where she wanted to go.
Yeah, and handling it a lot better than they did. But yeah, let's talk about the Smilers a moment. This was not the greatest, quote, villain, unquote, that we've seen in Doctor Who.
Yeah, if we're going to start with the Smilers, in particular, the look of them, the design of them wasn't bad, but the execution, what they actually do in the story, was pretty,
Yeah, I think that's the biggest problem, is that they should have just been kind of set off to the side as atmosphere, I think the monsters should have been something else. Or I think there should have been something else there that maybe they were indicating.
Or they should have made the Smilers look much more threatening. But
yeah,
the only time we see them actually trying to be threatening is when the Queen is around and she's just shooting them down constantly.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, they're not even really that scary. They look like a freaking carnival sideshow.
I described them once. I described them once as scary for the trailer, but not for the episode, and that's pretty much their primary purpose. This is really the first time where Moffat really fails on creating a one-hit monster.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm looking at those Smilers, and I'm imagining that little boy going up to one of them and wishing to be big.
Yeah. That could have been a good idea for them. They could have been like, but they could give out horror scopes. Get it?
Yeah, because that's what they looked like, as those, those read your future, judge your weight genie things. It's just
the gypsy things.
They could predict your death or something like that. They could have been scary that way. They could have been more influential with the plot.
But they kind of weren't.
But they wanted to make them robots, which would actually come out, which, okay, sure, as long as they can actually go about actually being a physical threat while they're doing that. To which the only times they do that, again, is when the Queen is around, and the Queen just instantly one-shoots them all the time.
I would have much been more impressed by the fact that if they had made the villains and enhanced them more, being the black-robed Inquisition-y guys, rather than that, and just had the Smilers be like a face on a screen. Because it seems way too much to go through to, do everything they did with these, elaborate heads in a box thing. It just didn't make any sense to me.
Yeah.
Actually, actually setting them up as they are, even without the ability to actually get out, it would have been just a lot easier.
Honestly,
just make them a face on a screen and just have the black Inquisition guys.
Really been effective is if they were responsible, if they were the creation of either some puppet ruler or puppet computer program that was actively working to keep the Queen from finding out that was actually trying to stop them from finding everything out, rather than just being frowning at people while still letting them learn everything.
Yeah, I think it would have been more interesting also if Queen Liz had been a bad guy instead of a good guy. Making her more like the head of that, rather than in name only.
Especially
and having her come off as more Queen of Hearts than, Rebel Queen.
Especially since, based on everything, she's pretty much the one who made the decision, hey, here's a space whale, let's capture it and torture it.
Mm-hmm. Because I think it would have been better for the Doctor to be accusing her of making this horrific choice when she didn't have to.
Mm-hmm.
And the moral of it was the fact that that the choice didn't need to be made.
And it would also continue, his standard relationship with authority figures and royalty.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
It would have been great if they saw him and I'm almost immediately identified him as the Doctor. It's like, the Doctor, he'll ruin everything. Off with his head. You know?
Yeah, or even
And
if
then-
she, or even if like she tries to befriend him and she's like, this is why this was necessary, and he just is like, this is never necessary. What was I about to say? Oh yeah, she's basically there because the episode lacked a sassy gun-toting female.
Yeah. I mean, if you take a look at Liz 10, she's essentially River's song without the knowledge.
Yeah.
And I think part of her was there for the opening bit for the Pandorica,
She was.
where they
she
pretty much go back through the entire season.
Mm-hmm.
She's the one who finds the. Oh no, she's the one River steals the painting from, or gives it to River, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I believe she gives the
think,
painting to River.
Winston Churchill calls River about the painting, and then she then goes and steals it from Liz 10 or something.
Something like that, yeah.
But Liz 10 was actually there ahead of her and hands it over anyways.
Something like that. But yeah, I mean, those are the only two appearances of Liz 10. To be honest, a good chunk of this story could have been done without her.
Could have, yeah.
Speaking of another thing, I feel like if the Doctor wasn't trying to impress the new cute girl in his life, he would have remembered who the Queen in the 29th century was.
Yeah,
You would
That's the
think.
sort of thing the Doctor and New Who would have remembered.
Yep.
Especially, her reign was 300, 200
Although-
some odd years. That's the kind of thing he would normally remember.
Although he never says that he didn't. He just didn't know her by face.
Yeah, but when she said Liz 10, that should have been one of the moments where the Doctor's like, no, she can't be, and, type of deal.
Still, at the same way, he's used to thinking of it as Queen Elizabeth the something, the Liz 10.
Mm.
There's actually been characters in Doctor Who whose names were a name followed by a number.
So he is somewhat used to that, yes. And they did do that during Classic Who.
Yes, they did.
And they still do it for some of the audio adventures, actually, as I recall.
For the
Yep.
classic ones.
So, it's possible that he was just looking at Liz 10 the wrong way.
Hmm. This is, I think, the second time the deflowering of Virgin Queen is brought up.
Yes, it is.
Yep.
Something that will be mentioned all the way through to 50th anniversary, where we actually get to figure out what the hell that's all about.
Mm-hmm.
But still, that was Moffat taking a Russell T Davies ball and running with it.
Yeah.
One of the few he actually did keep.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think if there's anything else
Let's
to say.
see. Yeah, I'm trying to think of anything I didn't actually put into my review. Let's see. We've talked about Liz 10. We talked about
The Smilers.
Smilers.
Did we talk about the button?
The buttons.
The video? The button that erases your memory after watching the video?
Yeah, the forget button.
Yeah.
The
Which
forget
is going to be something
protest or
Moffat...
forget.
Yeah, which is going to be a plot device that Moffat's going to steal in a different fashion for next season. Not
Yeah.
steal, but keep running with.
What's that? There's another one of those?
The
Because
Church
mind
of
you-
Silence?
Erasing people's memories and then leaving yourself a message.
Yes. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole flashy thing to forget your mind comes up in the 50th anniversary special, too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that was never a Doctor Who
Although,
trope before.
at
As
least
we mentioned,
in-
as we kind of insinuated in the bump, it is really Men in Black.
I'm like, in Day of the Doctor, it pretty much is a neuralizer.
Yeah. Here it is too.
Actually, although arguably, I think Russell might be responsible for introducing the trope, but then again, that was his version of the Men in Black. Torchwood.
What? Oh,
Torchwood.
using the retcon pill?
Yeah. And even then, as you say, it's a pill. It's not, flash.
Flash and erase, yeah.
A pill is a lot more believable too,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It kind of is.
The
But then
fact that
again,
they
we're
call
dealing
it
with a group that
retcon
has alien technology,
has
so
always
I don't
messed
know.
with my mind.
Tosh probably named it.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Also, looking at these smilers here now that they're out of their boxes, yeah, they don't look that effective when they're on foot either.
It would help.
No,
did the
they look
Smilers
like
even have any
J-random
sort of
goons.
weapon? Did they do anything other than frown at people? Because I'm pretty sure the
Proud
doctor.
people will walk at them.
I'm
They
pretty sure
they frowned, they opened the box, and then they loomed at them menacingly.
and that's the thing. Like the doctor and the queen both yell at them for it's like what are you gonna do to me? Normally, a normal Doctor Who's monster response would be to pull out a blade or a gun or something. Their response
these guys just slowly wander.
glaring.
They don't even have the auton guns.
Yeah, they just glare and keep wandering towards them, and then get shot down by the queen.
They don't threaten to exterminate them or.
They're freaking zombies. They're walkers.
Actually, I think the walkers are more threatening than these guys from what I've seen of them.
But I mean, that's about all the armaments they have.
These guys don't have teeth.
Yeah, that's true. They don't even have teeth. They don't have anything to actually harm anyone except for me trying to punch them.
They have no bark. They have no bite.
They could probably strangle you.
They maybe could strangle you. They can probably punch you, and they can drop you down a hole again.
If you watched as one of them did that, punched through one of the metal bars, you might get a little bit of threat from them.
Yeah, if you actually saw them do some damage, maybe they could have brought the threat level up a lot higher.
Or even if they had picked someone up and restrained them and showed that they were strong enough to keep someone from escaping. They didn't even do that.
Just have them do something and be effective at it, which they do not the entire time.
They automatically aged you. That would be interesting. Like, if they grabbed the little girl and all of a sudden she's a young woman standing in front of them. And then she's an old woman. And then she's a pile of dust. That would be terrible, but still kind of scary.
Either way, they don't do anything really threatening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, think about it. The first one we see, in order to be threatening, it needs a little girl chanting a rhyme about an angry horse.
Although that's kind of a recurring Moffat theme, too.
My point is, in order to even have that modicum of fright, that modicum of terror that it has, it needs that. If you took that girl out of the scene, the Smiler would scare nobody. Even the little boy. The little boy wouldn't be scared.
Even the cinematography on them doesn't make them scary.
It attempts to, but it's just a boring Dutch angle.
It's okay for a couple of shots that go into the trailer, but that's really about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're aren't they pretty well lit for monsters? I mean, they could probably cast a little more shadow on them and make them kind of more menacing when they.
Yeah,
I think the lighting is to point out how fake and unhuman they look, but they're statues, so that's kind of a given. So
yeah, well, here's the thing: they revealed the angry face too much, too close, too soon.
Mm-hmm.
The actual real threat of these things are the nasty, hideous, demonic-looking face things, and they show it point blank in bright lights within the first 5 minutes.
If they waited for the really angry face to come out and then they pulled out a weapon or something, that would make sense.
Yes.
Or another thing, if they played at them being ineffectual for the entire episode,
and then all of a sudden have them rip somebody apart.
No, and then in the last 10 minutes, the Master Smiler comes out. It takes control of them all, and they become ruthless monsters or something.
Yeah.
There's so many different ways you can make these guys more effective than what they were, but they didn't use a single one of them.
Could almost do a Robots of Death type thing.
Yeah. Or the War Machines.
Around the Smilers too long. She's been getting all her advice from the Smilers. So she doesn't even trust her human companions anymore.
Although,
Human
speaking of
subjects.
which, if the queen is spending all day trying to figure out, a conspiracy that she created over and over again for, who's actually ruling, like, who's actually in charge of things. Like, the queen spends all day sitting in a room of
Well, assumedly it's
glasses of water.
Presumably, it would be the
the guy
prime
with the
minister.
glass. Yeah, the guy with the glasses that she accused of skulking around.
Mm-hmm.
Which might be a figure. Which, when he's in public, he might be the figurehead of a prime minister of some sort. If they are still following the traditions of current Earth, which they seem to a little bit.
Maybe they've had the same prime minister for 300 years.
Maybe.
That's another thing.
Yeah.
That's another thing. When did the humans suddenly get the ability to slow down their aging process?
It seems only a handful of people can afford it, is what I got out of it, at least.
I feel like, I don't know, it's the royal family in a British sci-fi. I kind of suspended my disbelief on one.
Well, it's just getting to the point that, suddenly it's the Doctor being 900 years old as he is in this isn't as unique as it should have been.
Yeah.
I mean, that was the thing about being a Time Lord, is you lived for an incredibly long time.
Also, the Queen was the only black person in Britain.
Apparently, yeah.
Actually, no, I saw some black... There's a couple black people, actually, in the background.
And one of the Smilers was, too.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, that's right. Yeah, that's right.
Matter of fact, the glass that he takes from a person, the guy at the table was black, if I'm not mistaken.
Although I just realized, so... Yeah, the black guy turns into a white Smiler. Kind of awkward.
Would that be considered whiteface?
Pretty much.
You both kind of went there at the same time. That's kind of frightening.
Yeah.
Scary.
A lot of this episode, a lot of it, I guess you could say. What did you think of the set?
The set design looked alright.
I think the sets looked pretty good. I don't think I ever had any problems with anything there.
Yeah, they didn't look overly fantastic, but they weren't by any means overly horrible either.
Okay, let me ask you guys a question. How many of you figured out what was wrong with the glass of water when you first saw it?
I think I got the idea automatically, too.
I did not. Because actually, that's something that kind of stuck out to me in the beginning, because I'm like, if the whale is moving them through space, I guess the point is the engine would be vibrating, but I'm just thinking, if the whale is moving them through, I didn't actually think about vibrating. I was more thinking of forward motion. I'm just like, the act of moving through space, unless they have some massive inertial dampeners, should still be causing the water to ripple.
Not necessarily.
Yeah, not necessarily.
And it wouldn't cause it to move in the same way.
No.
Not in the same way, but I'm just saying, like, that was completely dead still, whereas organic motion is going to include a lot more changes in the acceleration than an artificial engine is, because a tail or whatever a star whale uses is not a single engine that just does one thing. It's a muscle that moves back and forth. So there should be still be motion in the water.
We are talking about an organic being capable of moving through the galactic depths of space in the first place. Mm-hmm. So at least a good chunk of your disbelief has to be suspended there already.
Yeah. By the way, I just found a picture of Smiler right next to Mr. Bean.
Bean.
Now, Smiler with...
see, the other Ninth Doctor encountered him too.
What's that guy that does the dummies that everyone likes?
Guy that does the dummies that everyone likes.
Jeff Dunham?
Yes.
Oh, the puppets.
His old man puppet.
Walter.
He could be a Smiler.
He actually might be a more effective smiler.
Yeah, he might be. Jeff Dunham, the #1 comedian in the Middle East.
He is rather popular, although it also seems to be just as popular a thing to hate on him for no apparent good reason. I will admit that some of his stuff can be kind of hit or miss, but
you say for
there's
no
a good
reason,
portion
but
of it
then
I like.
you said he's popular, then you say people hate on him for no reason. It's the internet. People hate on him because he's popular.
True. Oh, the guy popping. Yeah, he already makes fun of himself. Try harder. Anywho, puppets aside.
I think the only thing really well, I guess we can talk about a little about the Doctor and a bit about Amy.
Okay. The Doctor's acting in this is one of the reasons that is one of the few things that redeems this episode to an extent. I like the concept of the Doctor having to make an impossible choice like this.
Yes.
And I love Matt Smith's reaction to that choice.
And actually, here's something that we wouldn't have seen the first time we saw it. The Doctor talks about changing his name because he wouldn't be the Doctor anymore if he had gone through with
I noticed that the first time through.
Yes.
No, but I mean, you wouldn't have noticed the significance of it having not seen Name of the Doctor yet.
Actually, not until you wouldn't really notice the significance of it until Day of the Doctor. It only gets dropped slightly in name at the end.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. The ending of Name of the Doctor, pretty much.
But it really is more detailed in Day.
Yeah. Well, yeah, the ending of Name of the Doctor is pretty much a trailer for Day of the Doctor.
Yes, but what I mean is, you don't really. It brings it up, but it doesn't fully address it until Day.
Yeah.
Right. Of what the Doctor did to why the Doctor decided that he couldn't actually keep the name.
Mm.
At that time, yes.
This pretty much says that at least that that much of the idea was ready by this time, and of course, this is the second time that a Moffat episode has really dealt with the Doctor's name in I was about to say it was like the Clockwork Fireplace. No, that's not right. Girl in the Orange, also not right. But in Girl in the Fireplace, Renette talks a bit about the Doctor's name and as if there's some sort of big secret to do with it.
The Girl in the Orange. Have you been watching Orange is the New Black now, Bill?
I have not.
No, I think he was trying to say Clockwork Orange or Girl in the Fireplace.
I know. I'm just funning.
Yeah. The Clockwork Androids make me think of Clockwork Oranges.
And now I'm thinking of Breaking Bad.
Anyway.
Why do Clockwork Oranges make me...
I really liked, though, how pained and how bitter that decision was.
Yeah.
The reaction to it all, yeah. And he's just like, and no humans have the right to tell me what to do today.
That scene. Yes, no human has anything to say to me today. That good scene there. And this, okay, no.
He was definitely reaching a very grim, you stupid monkeys point.
Mm-hmm. But he doesn't actually use monkeys. Now, if it was Eccleston, he would have said stupid ape.
Yeah.
Yes, but that's not even that. Like, he's not saying it was a stupid thing to do. He's basically just saying, it's more human cruelty and such than anything else.
Do we ever really see him get really angry like that again? I don't remember.
I think
this particular Doctor,
the farthest he gets. I don't think he ever gets quite that angry.
He doesn't get bitter angry again. He gets this calm.
You do get the scene where you think he's about to haul off on the guy in a town called Mercy.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I don't think you ever see him really to this in that kind of rage after this episode.
No, this is kind of the last outburst of the angry, bitter Doctor that we've seen. Mm-hmm. That 9 was the epitome of, and 10 would have flashes of.
Yeah. Largely an episode's written for 9.
Oh, but I would also add actually that they kind of seem to hint a little bit at some points in this too that he's the doctor that likes to forget.
Mm-hmm.
Because they do bring up the time war again in this, and he's like, I tend to really want to forget it, but I can't.
No, he's like yes. Well, yeah. There's the forgetting plot line with the humans, and he's like, that he wants to forget but never will.
Mm-hmm.
And he doesn't really forget. He just starts to.
He represses some of
He
it.
represses
details.
it and tries to go off of whatever's going on in front of him instead.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Because it hurts to remember.
What's
all the time.
interesting, and this might go back to what I said earlier about trying to impress the new cute girl on the TARDIS, but his whole non-interference policy that he tries to spout in the beginning of it.
Yeah, that lasted, what, 5 seconds?
Hartnell tried to have a non-interference policy. It lasted half a season.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think any other doctor bothered.
Well, technically, Tennant has brought it up a few times. We shouldn't. We really shouldn't. We really shouldn't. And then he'll go do it.
Right.
The thing that I think the Doctor tends to work with as well as he can, in a sense he is a Time Lord and knows these things a lot better, is that he knows where he can bend the rules.
If the Doctor were in Starfleet, he would be executed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
my brain
I just-
thought up the. Actually, it depends on what era of Starfleet. I
Yeah.
actually kind of mentally said myself, and I was going to use this in the summary and completely forgot, is the fact that the Doctor's very Kirk when it comes to the Prime Directive.
Pretty much.
I don't know.
Whereas-
Kirk in the Prime Directive is like, hey, the Prime Directive, unless there are Klingons. Actually, that's not even that because he does tend to, destroy world-ruling intelligences and such.
He tends to play fast and loose with the Prime Directive, whereas Picard is a little more by the book.
He tries to be by the book, even though he does every once in a while have to break it, but he breaks it more willingly during the movies.
Mm-hmm. But I mean, it's
And the movies are a totally different beast.
But yeah, Kirk tends to be the one to break the Prime Directive more.
Mm-hmm.
And they actually mention either in the novels or something that was because Starfleet was more of a cowboy diplomacy back then, and it's a lot more rigid and formal. It's old.
Yeah, because they were pretty much exploring parts of the universe no one had ever seen. I have a feeling that most of the Prime Directive violations that he committed were probably never reported to Starfleet.
Because it wasn't necessary at the time.
Glossed over because it was deemed, because it was deemed basically this is what I had to do. Communication with Starfleet was not instantaneous back then.
There were also, a lot of these civilizations they came across had already been tainted by, superior technology anyway. The one, a bit of human history or some other species touched them and completely shaped their culture. And then what Kirk ended up doing was removing that influence.
Yeah, sometimes, but that wasn't all of it.
Not all of it, no.
But no, I'm just saying in general, they were fast and loose. They didn't quite have the Admiralty breathing down his shoulder like Picard did. So he was able to play a little fast and loose with the rules. The Doctor doesn't have the Time Lords breathing over his shoulder anymore, and never really did. I mean, in classic era, if he did too much, they would come down on him like a sack of potatoes.
Mm-hmm.
But he doesn't have that limitation in the new series.
Which is the whole thing with Waters of Mars.
That's where he goes way too far.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the Doctor's pretty good at noticing when a point is fixed in time, when he can't alter it. The eruption of Mount Vesuvius, that kind of thing. He can't kill Hitler because it's a fixed point, that kind of
Destruction
stuff.
of Earth.
Yeah. But he knows that the stuff in the middle, as long as he doesn't, divert it to the point that he'll never get to the next fixed point is he can pretty much futz with Helter Skelter.
Little fudges here and there, no one will notice. Just
And
walk away whistling.
He does kind of have kind of a Boy Scoutish policy of trying to make things, put things back better than it was when he picked it up.
Mm-hmm.
Which brings me back to his, where did he get the idea that he was going to tell Amy that they never, ever, ever interfere?
I'm kind of thinking he was going to add a but after that, but then he just kind of saw the girl crying and he just kind of stopped.
Either that or it was kind of companion indoctrination. Don't do this. Do as I say, not as I do.
All the rules that all the rules he expects the companions to break.
Yeah.
Don't run off. I'm in charge. I'm not the professor.
Do as I say. Do it all the time. And then you run off with the freeze gun.
I think Moffat's second episode kind of points that out. Where are you going? I'm checking out the ship. He said not to run off. Well,
Yep.
yeah, so I'm running off.
Now you're getting it, and they both run off with freeze guns.
Mm-hmm.
Well, fire extinguishers.
They're freeze guns.
Yeah, but it is kind of a running thing in Doctor Who. The Doctor, stay close to me. What do the companions do? Wander off.
Right.
Don't touch that. What does the companion do? They come back and touch it.
Yeah, it happens a lot.
Pretty much.
Romana, stick to me. What does Romana do? She wanders around and tries to get the contraption fixed and working.
Yeah, it happens a lot.
And the Doctor face palms.
You can listen to Eddie Izzard, and you can basically say that the Doctor's main goal in Classic Who is to rescue his companions who have gotten themselves captured. Oh, hey, Doctor, I've been captured.
Again?
He does a whole bit on it.
I'm
kind of
actually not
funny.
surprised he is a British comedian after all.
Yep.
By the way, did you know that he was actually up to be Grandpa Munster in the remake of The Munsters?
I actually saw they did one show of it.
Yeah, they did a pilot.
Yeah, he wasn't that bad, but it was kind of different.
It was different, but it was a different that I didn't mind.
The whole getting captured thing, I've seen Sarah Jane described as the British Lois Lane for that reason.
Yeah, Lois does do her bit of getting captured, but
Would that also quantify her as the April O'Neil of the show?
yeah, she kind of does it too. But actually, that makes more sense. Actually, they both make sense. They're both journalists.
No, April O'Neil is the. Is she a journalist? I thought she was just.
She's
the,
a news reporter.
Yeah, but the reporter generally isn't supposed to go out and get the story. They're supposed to stand in front of it.
Yeah, they were a little fuzzy on that when it came to the old '80s Ninja Turtles. But regardless, it's it's the same issue. It's the damsel heroine in distress, and a lot of Doctor Who companions have fit that to the T over the years. It's not just Sarah Jane. It's not just
not just any single one of the companions. They all seem to have a moment of April O'Neilism.
Luckily, the best ones have less of those moments and more interesting moments, but some
usually,
of them,
yes.
I mean, hell,
I
Liz
think even
Shaw,
Ace
Liz
has
Shaw
had
was
been captured.
Liz
moment.
Shaw was pretty much kicked off not the TARDIS, but kicked off the set because she pretty much did not fit that role.
Yeah.
I think actually the only other companion that broke that rule was Leela.
She had a couple of them too.
Leela had some of those moments, yeah.
Maybe, but she was also there stabbing it right back.
Yeah, because wasn't she kidnapped in Talon's Wang Chang?
Yes, she was.
Was she? Maybe she
Yes.
was.
She spent the entire time threatening the person that had captured her, but she was captured nonetheless.
Wait a second. I think. Hold up. Ace?
Ace got at least one.
When?
Let's see. It was during the last season.
Then again, she had times where she was more like mentally captured than physically.
Mm-hmm. I think once in Ghostlight and once in Fenric. But either way, it was, it still provided the same thing.
Yeah.
And of course, Bonnie Langford did it all the time. Purpagalion Brown did it all the time.
Mm-hmm.
All of the Fifth Doctor companions at one point or another were captured. Although the most famous one for it was Adric.
Yeah, Adric seemed to get it a lot more often, which is kind of weird.
Yeah, when I think of Adric, I think of him being captured by somebody.
Yeah. And then, of
Or
course,
eating.
Romana had a few points where she was captured, and
Once or
I'm
twice,
trying to think of doctors being captured, and honestly, Tom Baker
Frequently.
is the one that stands out to me the most. I mean,
Oh, they all get captured at some point.
Troughton got
Yeah.
captured in the Two Doctors, of course.
Pertwee got captured a few times, at least once in the Green Death.
The first
thing
Doctor.
is, when the doctor's captured, he usually manages to find a way to escape.
Usually. Actually, 10th Planet. The first Doctor was captured for a long while there.
So it happens.
Oh, you mean when the entire base was captured? Or you mean
No, like they actually the Cybermen actually grabbed up the Doctor and took him to their ship. He was captured by the Cybermen for the longest while there.
He was also captured and taken into the Dalek mothership in Invasion of Earth.
Oh, and he was also he and the other companions were technically captured by the Daleks in Dalek.
Yeah. I'm more specifically the Doctor being separated from the companions, with the Doctor being the one captured.
It's happened a few times.
It's happened a few times to almost all of them.
Has it happened to all of them is the question.
I think so at one point.
As far as I'm aware, yes. Try to think, yep, Third Doctor it happened. Fourth Doctor it happened a lot. Fifth Doctor a couple times.
Sixth and seventh?
Sixth Doctor...
It may not have happened to the sixth, but he didn't have a long run.
No, I think he was captured by the Ronnie at one point, wasn't he? Pretty sure he was.
Oh, yes, he was. Yes, he was.
Yeah,
okay.
So the Sixth Doctor was captured, yes.
And I remember that the Ronnie kept him under control by threatening to kill a random human.
And
So
then threatening to...
It happened to all of them then.
Yeah.
Well, except for the eighth Doctor, but he only has a movie.
Not on screen. If you go through his audios, I'm sure he's been captured.
Somewhere.
I mean, he's had his brain worked on by Davros, apparently, so...
Yeah, that had to have been a capture point at one point.
Alright, so...
Oh yeah, nine was captured and tortured.
So as often as we complain about the companions getting captured, all of the Doctors have been captured, so, meh. It happens.
The Beast Below.
Yes, I was trying to get back to that.
The one thing we haven't really discussed yet that merits it, I think, is Amy. This does set. I think it's a fairly good introduction to her.
Mm-hmm.
And it really points out what is the strength of this character, and it's that she fits very well into the alchemic fairy tale, memory and emotions create the reality type of thing that especially Moffat's run as producer tends to focus on. She notices essentially not necessarily anything particularly clever, a puzzle or anything like that, but she puts together the emotional cues that, hey, this is what this creature that I otherwise don't know, this is how I can figure out, how it thinks and what it's going to do, and uses that to save the day.
Mm-hmm. Also, she's in a nightgown. The entire
she spends
episode.
The entire episode in her nightie.
Mm-hmm. That actually kind of bothered me a little bit.
It was
It actually
It was supposed to be kind of a Wendy Darling reference.
More
Wait,
or less.
after she gets thrown up, did she change? I didn't check.
Yes. For somehow their clothes are automatically cleaned and pressed by the next scene.
After
so
they
she
get
didn't
back with the
change,
queen,
just
yes.
her clothes got cleaned with her on them.
Well,
I mean,
after, they're talking with Queen Liz, after they get out of it, you can see the doctor's hair is all wet and slicked back and
yeah.
looks a lot thinner than it normally looks. And all of their clothes are wet and stuff. And then they cut to going to Queen Liz's quarters.
And they're all cleaned up.
And they're all dry, but they're still in the same clothes, so we don't know what happened.
One assumes showers and laundry.
Yeah, showers and some kind of 30th century laundry.
See, when I see that, I think of Baron Munchausen. The Baron Munchausen movie? Yeah.
And I was going to reference the elevators in New Earth, but that's the year 5 billion.
Yep. But still, they might have invented the 30-second laundry by then. Ding! Hey, look, clothes are clean.
Hey.
Yeah, you want one of those, don't you, Aaron?
Yes, I do.
I would love one of those myself.
If it does the ironing for you, I'll take one.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
If it does the ironing and everything else, I would love to have one. I could clean my jackets more often.
Let's see, but yeah, that's
the main talking points, unless someone has anything else they want to discuss.
It's not really... I mean, it's an okay episode, it's just not really one of my favorites, I guess.
Or here's it. Well, to build a bit more, this is essentially, the 11th hour was the introduction of the 11th Doctor. The Beast Below is the introduction of Amy. Even though we've seen her in a previous episode, this is the one where
we really get to know her.
This is her trial by fire, really.
Yeah. So how would you say it does as essentially the Amy pilot?
I guess it does okay. It does that point to, like I said, it's her trial by fire in which, she gets the point where, yes, she's qualified to be a companion now.
She gets the gold star.
Yes, she gets the gold star and gets to move on.
Gold stars are for mathematical excellence.
I think that was Randy Smack of Bad Bill, no biscuits.
That was me giving you a probie slap right there.
Oh, I can't wait for our live episode.
Oh yeah. Bill may have a headache afterwards.
Bill's seeing stars right now. He'll come back later.
Words, Randy sits at the far right, I sit at the far left, and everyone else is in between.
I'm going for the middle. What the hell are you talking about? That way I can smack any of y'all.
It'd be like the Three Stooges.
Meanwhile, Aaron is at the far end just playing Bejeweled or something.
Matt, how would you know I was playing Bejeweled right now? Because that's really creepy.
Aaron! Steam pops up magical things when
Aaron
you're on
to be
Steam.
In the middle so that she can't do those things.
You just don't want me in the middle so I can reach out and smack you.
Well, there are two middle spots.
Technically, yes.
Anyway,
as I was saying, Aaron, Steam was on. It popped up.
I changing the subject abruptly, going back to the podcast. It makes me wonder if when Moffat was writing the base idea for this, he was listening to Boston albums.
Oh?
I don't know much about Boston, old man.
Well,
they sell beans.
Oh man!
No, the all of the album covers for Boston. I know this because my mother was a huge Boston fan.
Yeah, I don't know their covers.
Was basically about the spaceship Boston, which was the city of Boston enclosed in a glass dome in a spaceship, which, this being an album cover, looked like a big guitar. But each album cover, as each one came out, further progressed the story of the journey of the spaceship Boston. As the first one, you see Boston and a few other cities like Los Angeles and stuff fleeing as Earth was exploding.
Yeah.
The second album is them traveling through space, and the third album, which I believe was called First Stage, was them landing on a planet.
All of a sudden, Boston is a lot more awesome.
Yeah, that was the only reason I know this, is because I saw these album covers and I'm like, that's awesome.
And you know what I just realized would be a good sequel to this? An adventure on the starship Scotland.
Yeah, that'd be kind of cool.
That would be interesting. They have the perfect time to do it now.
Yeah.
If they want to harken back to this episode.
They kind of hinted in The Beast Below that they would have liked the Scottish Doctor. Like, oh, are you Scottish too?
No.
Anything else before we go into final thoughts?
Wow, we're getting it done early today, aren't we?
A little bit. Not massively early.
Damn it! No, Bejeweled, you've defeated me again.
Good.
Good. Now you can concentrate on your final thoughts, and as you've just spoken up, you're elected.
Again. Bejeweled? It's very jewelly and sparkly and makes little noises.
0. Bad Aaron.
You've been a bad Aaron. Bad Aaron. 0.
I guess my thoughts are, it was an okay episode. It could have been so much better, though. It really could have. As such, it's not forgettable, really, but it's meh. It's like, oh, well, this is okay. This is all right. We can go with this. The monsters kind of were scary at first, but then they got worn out. They, once they began to open up the cabinets and walk out, they were just
silly goons.
Yeah, exactly. It wasn't. And then the queen shows up and she kind of steals a lot of the scenes, and it's just like, actually, to be honest, I don't really know if it's a really good introduction for Amy, because there's so much going on. There's so much scene stealing, and yet there's nothing really going on. I mean, it's a giant, and then there's the space whale, yeah. But I've seen weirder things in Who. That's just me.
You see what losing Bejeweled can do for concentration on what we're talking about?
No, I think it's just the episode. It's just it's an okay. I liked it when it came out. I thought it was pretty cool, and then the longer it just kind of sat in my conscience, the more it was just like, well, this isn't that good of a show. This isn't that good of an episode for this show, especially for when it's getting right off the ground.
Aaron is starting to understand why the rest of us are disillusioned in Stephen Moffat.
Yeah.
Just you wait, we're going to get further into this.
I had hope in the world, people. I had hope in the world, and now all I have is Bejeweled.
And Bejeweled has betrayed you.
Now, Aaron, you've fallen into our trap.
But that's it for what I have to say. I'm just underwhelmed by it, to be honest.
All right. Bill.
This is a kind of an episode of growth for Moffat, I think, because it's where he takes the same formula he's essentially been using and applies it to something where it really doesn't work. Not in a horribly offensive, terrible writing, oh my god, why would you do that way, but in a not terribly interesting, there was no point to that monster type of way, and it really forced him as a producer and writer to, start to look for other things, and whether or not those other things succeeded, I can pretty much say I don't think it can be said that he wrote another forgettable episode ever again. I mean, this I would say is by far the most forgettable thing he's written for Doctor Who or Sherlock, and I doubt that's going to change. In terms of its quality, as I said, there's nothing horribly bad about it. It's just forgettable and tries to use a formula that really doesn't fit it.
You done?
Yes.
Okay, Matt?
Okay, here's where I see the major downfall of this episode. The middle bit is too dry and boring. It's not written well enough to keep the arc going. What we have here is a really good startup.
No pun intended.
It goes for a bit, and then it loses its momentum somewhere in the middle, kind of dies out for a little while. In particular, this is when we realize that these Smilers are no threat to our characters at all. And then at the very end, they start to kind of bring it back, and they finally get some more interesting stuff for both the Doctor as well as Amy to do. And in the end, culminates some of the stuff throughout for giving Amy her gold star moment at the very end. The main problem is that the middle of this just loses its steam for some reason. They need to do some better writing, especially if they're Monster of the Week. If they would have had something better to do with those guys, they could have pulled this off a lot better, I think. And that would have solved a lot of the problems very easily.
You done?
Yep.
Okay. Basically, this episode is Moffat's first real test of writing episodes, or basically writing storylines back to back. He had not actually had to do two in a row before. He's had to do 2-part episodes, but they were still one big story.
Right.
But this is where he had to come up with a story and then come up with another story really quick. And this is the first time his writings had that test, and it comes up short. Something that we will see again repeatedly in the future. The episode itself is mediocre. It has one really good finale scene, but everything else about it is kind of ho-hum.
I think a few good scenes toward the finale, because the Doctor gets his great moment, and then Amy gets her time.
I consider that to be one big scene.
Oh, so you're just saying the whole long, 10-minute sequence
whole big
or
end
whatever?
arc, yeah.
Yeah, that's the finale scene, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
From the second they get into the tower to the end of it is basically one scene.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, okay. And when you said moment, I thought you meant one conversation with, one cut type of deal.
No, I meant as in scene, really.
Okay.
It has one good scene at the end, and the rest of it is Moffat trying to wade his way to it. And it doesn't quite work. The middle of it is kind of a jumbled mess of, okay, the monster that he created was not scary. The whole whale vomiting thing kind of fell flat. And the characters that he introduced aren't really introduced to it to the point where they can really develop as a character other than a caricature.
Mm-hmm.
So all in all, not the best going there. The end scene does redeem it a little bit because of some tremendous acting by Matt Smith and by why did I suddenly forget her name? Who plays Amy Pond?
Karen Gillan.
Karen Gilliam. Both do very good acting bits there, but that's basically the crux of it. Okay, points. Aaron.
I'd say it was about 3 stars. That's what I give it.
Okay. Matt?
Oh. Yeah, because of the whole mess in the middle, I have to really give this a 3. If they could have fixed that middle section right there, they could have easily tried to boost this up to almost a 4.
All right. Bill?
I'm a little surprised at the 3s just because, I don't know, I feel like some of the... Well, I mean...
Don't get me wrong, there's really good stuff
Yeah.
at the beginning and end, but
That's
it's the
true,
middle
I mean-
that makes it really drag.
10 good minutes, 20 down minutes, 10 more good minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Ultimately, I can't in good faith give it a 3 just because of the ultimate forgettableness of a lot of the episode and the villains. But I can't go much lower than that because of the ending. So I'm going to say, have we done quarter points?
We've been shying away from quarter points.
How hardly
We've been
are we shying
keeping
away?
it to half.
So I'm going to give it a 2.5.
Because the next step after that is 10th points, and I don't want to go that far.
No, but
and then after that's 100th points.
I want to give it a 2.75, but then again, I think with the average, it might come out to that anyway. So I'll just say a 2.5.
All right, I'm actually going to give it a 3.5.
Ooh, sick burn!
I'm going to give it to that because the majority of this episode, for me, is mediocre. Flat mediocre.
Mm-hmm.
Except for the ending. Which, like I said, some really good acting there lets me bump it up a half point, but no more.
So that gives us a 3 average, which I cannot complain about.
Yeah, it's just a very average.
Yeah.
The really good parts are really good. The really average parts are really bland and average.
Mm-hmm. That's kind of my thing. It's the fact that I really love that Doctor's Choice scene that makes me give it that half point.
Yeah, it's one of the last few times we really get to see Matt Smith stretch his legs and act a bit more.
Yes, that's another reason, is after this he pretty much gets pigeonholed into one personality type.
With very few exceptions here and there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so
I'm trying to
really
think
nice.
if there's any time we really see this side of the Doctor again before midway through 7A. I don't think there is.
I haven't seen the last half of 6, so I couldn't tell you.
I mean, we see him kind of pissed at River, but nothing serious.
No, this is pretty much the last time we see this, and I feel that's of note. So 3.5, average of 3.
Yep.
So next week we are going on to, what is it, Time of the Angels, something like that?
Yep.
We are not going to be going. We're not going to be ending earlier than 2 hours next week because I get to rant a lot.
We're going to have a lot to complain about.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of bitching next week.
It's also a two-parter, yes.
Next week we're not going to be riding the brakes.
No. There's not going to be a lack of conversation. In fact, you're going to probably be at some point going, Randy, shut up.
Randy, shut up. I have my own rant, too.
Oh my gosh, what if we have Tim next week, too?
I don't know, but
I feel sorry
if you were a long-time
podcast.
podcast.
For Tim because he's probably not going to get much chance to talk unless he shuts us up.
Yeah, those of you that's been a long time.
Give him Bejeweled and knitting.
Aaron and Tim are now Bejeweled buddies.
I feel like knitting is going to become a mess, like a running Doctor Who fan thing for years to come.
Yeah, for those of you that have been long-term podcast listeners, you know, A, I have issues with River Song, and B, I have issues with Angels. That's all going to come up next week.
Is the episode.
We don't have issues with the first time they appear, but after that...
I feel like we vented quite a few issues the first time they appeared.
You have issues, I don't have that many issues. Until their second appearances, and then they just start going way downhill.
I wanted to bring up one random thing. We were talking about closed time loops and how they shouldn't be possible due to laws of thermodynamics and such. But Doctor Who has introduced something that can affect that. Bad Wolf.
Oh, true.
Yeah. But then again, Bad Wolf itself is Rose Tyler driven to near godlike power and entity.
What I'm saying is, it's possible that energy exuded by her is what provided the impetus for some of these closed loops to begin. Just like how the moment probably created that immortal Fez that has neither a beginning nor an end.
Haha.
How did it create the Fez?
I'm just saying the Fez neither existed nor
unexisted.
The Fez exists only in that time loop.
Yeah, if you're wondering
That's
how
neither
something
being
can
one
exist and not exist at the same time, I suggest you send your questions to Professor Schrodinger.
And pet the cat while you're there.
Yes, pet the cat, please.
And on that bombshell, good night.
See you all next week.
See y'all.
We should be back on Friday.
Back on Fridays.
Yep. There's no holiday on the 11th.
Not that I'm aware of. See y'all then.